You either be humble or you're gonna get humbled. And I got humbled real quick, right? And sometimes, Blake, no matter how you look at it, no matter what people tell you, you have to get burned yourself in order to learn.
Welcome to Direct Selling Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and this is where direct selling high performers and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Super excited about our guest today. As a young child, he moved from Taiwan and was raised in Vancouver, Canada, where he currently resides in Burnaby, just outside Vancouver. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, many of us are fans of that book, changed his life and started him on the road of entrepreneurship with traditional real estate back in 2006. Where he learned about the direct selling channel a few years later and now has parlayed that success inside the direct selling industry. He's currently among the top 1% of all agents and distributors in his company. That's 1% out of 88,000. Absolutely on fire. He's author of a book on next level performance. He says Terminator is the movie that most inspire him because he's indestructible. He just keeps coming back until he's achieved his goal. Some peers have given him the nickname The Beast. Maybe we'll talk about that. Let's welcome to the show, direct selling disruptor, John Tsai. John, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Blake.
Yeah, I've been following your content. I love just the energy and message you're bringing to the world, and have been super excited about today's conversation and being able to share what you've learned within this channel with our audience. So let's go back. I want to talk about, John, what you're seeing in today's world, right? Today's season, some of the shifts, some of the disruptions. But for those that maybe don't know you and your story, let's just kind of rewind the clock a little bit. I know it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad that got you started in entrepreneurship, more of a traditional real estate business. Maybe talk to us about that jump, and then where did direct selling come into the conversation? When did you make that leap, and how are you enjoying the path so far? Would love to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. So, coming over from Taiwan, being Asian here in Vancouver in the 90s was actually a tough time. I would get bullied. I would get made fun of. I didn't speak the language. And on top of that, I had an overbearing father who, would tell me, hey, you would amount to nothing. You're lazy. You're never enough, the Asian type of father thing, right? So I grew up with two chips on my shoulder, one being bullied and the other being, my dad just pushing me, right? So growing up with that, I bought into the story that I was never going to be good enough. So I was lazy all through high school, all through university, bought into that story. And then once I got the exposure to this one man in Taiwan, Blake, he was a Caucasian man in Taiwan working out Tuesday at noon. His name was Will. I never saw him again. I asked Will, I'm on my summer vacation. I am in my 4th year in university. What do you do? Don't you have to work? He said, I'm retired. I said, what? He said, I'm 42 years old. I'm retired. I built language schools here in Taiwan. I sold them all and I bought real estate. I said, wow, good for you. So you don't have to work anymore. Do you have a lot of passive income? What do you have? He's like, yeah, those rentals give me passive income. I said, well, if there was one book that you would have me read, what would it be? He said, go read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's when I picked up the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And funnily enough, right now, Blake, I am 43 years old and I'm giving back to 22-year-olds, full circle, right? I never saw them again. But even after reading that book, I was still lazy. I was still kind of partying around. But then I said, okay, I need to take a leap and I need to learn real estate. The only methodology that I learned from the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was to buy enough rental real estate so I can create passive income, so I can get out of the rat race, right, and retire or be retireable. So how was I going to do that? I didn't know real estate. Well, how about let's get our license and sell real estate so we can learn and buy enough real estate to retire. So Blake, the goal was always to get into real estate so I can get out of real estate. 2006, I finally got started. I said, you know what, enough is enough. I took my exam, I got in, and did not know what I was doing. I made 2 deals in my first half year, and that equated to $2,500 Canadian, not US.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then my second year, I did pretty well. I did 17 transactions, made over 100K. I thought I made it, right? 104,000 that I made. I went out and bought an $84,000 car. And then I bought my my girlfriend, then now wife, jewelry. I was completely broke. And then guess what happened in 2008?
We all remember it.
We all remember it. Now, I went from $15,000 worth of debt to $60,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
And I thought, why don't I go get engaged? I'm going to propose to my girlfriend. So Blake, I went out and got another loan for $20,000 so I can buy my girlfriend a ring. So I'm $80,000 in debt at this point. And then I go and sign up for coaching because I didn't know what to do in the sales business. I signed up for my sales coaching organization. And then I didn't do a deal for 6 months. But within that time, I needed some income, right? You need some income. But I wasn't going to go and work at Wendy's or Burger King or whatnot. I didn't have those skills either. So I said, why don't I join the direct selling business?
Okay. So you were first introduced to direct sales. You're focused on real estate. You're inspired, but it's not working. You're in the middle of a recession. Now you got all this debt. And so you looked to the channel really out of necessity, and you found, so a nutrition company was actually your first introduction. That's interesting.
Yeah. So one of our friends just happened to be in the industry and like, John, what you're doing is linear, meaning you only eat what you kill, right? Whereas the residual income can come from the direct selling business, which you can create an override from your sales, not just once, but it pays over and over and over and over again. So I had a taste of it. I started recruiting. I started to, talk to other people. I recruited a lot of my friends in the real estate business as well. And, lo and behold, the market comes back, Blake, in Vancouver in 2009. I ended up, I was on fire after that. But the direct selling industry taught me hard work, taught me to never give up, taught me that some will, some won't, so what next? So I brought that mindset into real estate. And I never looked back, right? I just kept selling. And my wife stayed in the business of direct selling until 2014. But myself, I had to get out of it. But all the way through, I just kept my head down. I worked. And then I was always thinking, how come there's no direct selling company that has a structure of residual income in real estate, right, Blake? And then all of a sudden, this magical company comes in front of my desk. I couldn't say no. I joined right away, January 2019, and here we are 4.5 years later. I've been able to build a residual income that well exceeds our monthly expenses. So I now sell real estate, Blake, because I still want to keep servicing our clients, but the bills are taken care of, which I'm super blessed. And so that basically is a journey. But you know what? Throughout all those years, 12 years, 13 years of grinding with 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days. And my mentor, my sponsor in my previous direct selling business company, she passed away just in November.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
Thank you. She was one of my biggest mentors. She's, she never gave up. She was bussing tables and doing network marketing to feed her 2 young girls. And she went from bussing tables, getting rejected to she was top 0.1% in her company. Super inspiring. But she passed, and she wasn't that old. I think she was 60. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear, and my condolences and sympathies. And I appreciate your transparency, John, and just sharing that story. I find your story super interesting, especially as it relates to this channel, right? Direct sales. And I know all of our listeners here are on different points of their path, whether they just got started in the industry or they're looking to go to the next level. And your story is unique because you started traditional path, Rich Dad Poor Dad is still a great book. I got to ask you, did you ever read Cash Flow Quadrants? It was the second one.
Oh man, I ate it all up. I mean, I read everything he had, and I even signed up for the course.
For the course. So I got to laugh. And they're still good. I mean, they're dated, right? So, but there's the principles still. So for me, I pause and share. So for me, John, if I were to go back and you can't see, but I'm in my home office here in Pacific Palisades, right to my right, I got a bookshelf. There's a wall full of books. And in the center, there's only a handful of books kind of stacked in the middle. And those are the books that had the most defining impact on my personal journey. And right there, the right after Think and Grow Rich is Cash Flow Quadrants. So I'm a Kiyosaki fan, so for those of you guys out there, they were a while back, but the principles hold true. And I love your story too of Will. You never know when someone's going to come into your life, even for a moment, but that one moment can change the trajectory of everything.
Absolutely.
So I love that. But you learned from direct selling skills, right? Your wife continued in the business. You went back to doing your traditional real estate thing, and then you pivoted back into this channel. So you have an interesting perspective that I think we all can learn from. I'm curious. What do you love, just personally, as an entrepreneur, having had success, right, on kind of both sides of the models? What do you personally love about like the direct selling industry, the network marketing model? What attracts you to it? Why is this where your time and energy are going right now?
Man, such a great question. What I love about it is collaboration, and we're slowly bringing that to the real estate industry. When I first started, kid you not, Blake, 26 years old, walking into the traditional real estate brokerage, and these older guys, also Taiwanese, they're like, "Are you rich?" I said, "No." "Why do you think I'm working?" "Is your family rich?" "No." "Why do you think I'm here?" I said, "Well, you should quit." Wow. Okay. Well, that's a good welcome for my first day in real estate. He said, if you don't know anybody and if your parents aren't rich, this isn't for you.
Wow.
And I was always dog eat dog. And for many, many years, I did not want to share any information. I did not want to help anybody. Right. And it was not until probably about 10 years in the business, I had, made it to the top 1%. And I started, you know what? I got to get back. I really got to get back, because the guy in that gym, he gave me something that changed my life completely. Why don't I give back? But then I was giving back, Blake, in my previous brokerage for free. Mm-hmm. And I was okay with that. And they actually hired me for training, and I did the training for free for the brokerage. But then this model came. And it's, if you share and if you collaborate with other agents, you actually get compensated. So why wouldn't I do that? But now it's just all about abundance. And I love the mindset of abundance. The more people you can help, the more money you'll make. And the secret to living is actually giving. You probably have heard this before. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want. Now, the thing is, you can't help people always with an ulterior motive. You have to help people when they have nothing to give back to you. That's the key difference right there, I would say. Help enough people, even when they can't give back to you. But it all comes back around, and I guarantee I've been in this business now 18 years, and I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Just got to pay it forward, contribute, and collaborate. That's what I love about the direct selling business.
Well, I love that answer. And even you being here, giving your time graciously to help, people that you don't even know might be listening to this right now. Like, this conversation, you might be someone's will, someone's will, right? Someone that inspires a shift. And, your story's fascinating because it sounds like your first, introduction was out of necessity, right? You're in that place, you got the debt, you got the bills, and you learned. But the second, introduction, your second beginning wasn't out of necessity. I mean, you were doing well in your space as an entrepreneur, but it was out of the love for what you're saying, right? People, collaboration, paying it forward. And then obviously comes out in what you're doing and why you're excelling the way you're excelling. Let me ask you this in terms of just, network marketing, direct selling as a channel, right? Because you were in a place you didn't have to come back. You chose to come back. Were there any misconceptions, any myths, any objections, right, that you find yourself having to face or educate people on, and how do you overcome them? How do you teach the people within your community to overcome?
So first, I do want to say something about what you said, is that I joined back into the direct selling business not out of necessity. I was doing well financially, Blake, but I was not doing well in my soul. I was not doing well in any of my relationships. 2016, we just cracked this pinnacle of real estate, right? But then I worked 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days, never saw my wife. We were like roommates. And 2017 came around. Can I do this again? 7 days a week, 12 to 14, 16-hour days. Can I do it again? 2018 came around. Wow. Can I do it again? Blake, I physically, emotionally, mentally could not do it again. So I was looking for a way out.
Wow.
And the only way out was for me to become a franchise owner, to build a company. I remember, to go from S to the I, right? To the B and the I, right?
You got it.
I was always S. Then that could work you to the grounds. I was grinding. So I wanted to transition to this quadrant here, B and I. The only way was to build a brokerage. And we had vetted this company for a long time. The whole system was going to cost us $500,000. They were going to give us stocks, revenue share, and lead generation tools, all the whole 9 yards, but it was going to cost us $500,000. But this new company came around and said, we're completely different from the traditional brick and mortar business. We're completely cloud-based, in which, we had kind of copied the direct selling business model. So you may receive all these benefits without having the big upfront investment. I had to jump, Blake, because without it, I was going to get a divorce. I lost my father in my 10 years of grinding. I only had, the last 6 years of his life, I never saw him. And when my mom picks up the phone and calls me, I always would end her call. I had no relationship, so I had to do it. So sorry, just long-winded, but
no, important. And I appreciate that clarification. And there's so much we can get from hearing that. I'm sure many of us that are listening, you might resonate because you're somewhere on that path, right? Maybe you're someone that needs it financially, or maybe you're someone that financially, to everybody else, you look fine. You're doing quote unquote well. You're quote unquote successful, but like we're hearing John say, maybe deep down inside, like there's a void. You need something. You're sacrificing everything that matters. So John, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think everyone can relate somewhere on that path. And also from the lens of sharing this with others, right? Sometimes we prejudge other individuals because we think they're successful, and they are successful, right? From everything we can see, but you never know what someone is dealing with or struggling, right, behind the door, right, in their relationship, in their marriage. So I appreciate that, both for us and where we're at, and also a reminder for everybody out there, right? Nobody's an untouchable, right? This business model can impact so many people in so many different ways. One thing I get from your story, and I know you're in an interesting category, right, that might be more affected by the seasons of life, the markets that are going on, economic trends, but no matter what product, brand, service we're all passionate about promoting, we all go through seasons, right? The world goes through seasons. We all go through highs and lows. I'm curious, you having gone through some of the extremes, we talked about 2008 recession, we talked about thriving, we talked about going back. What are some things you've learned as an entrepreneur to help kind of push through the setbacks, right? Push through the highs and the lows as you go through the different seasons? Would love to learn.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I talk about this all the time. I realized in 2008 that I will never quit. Mm-hmm. And I realized in 2008 that, being $80,000 in debt, not making an income for 6 months in real estate. But here's the thing. If I just keep moving forward 1% every day, if I just take that one little step forward every single day, if I just made that one more call, if I just met that one more sphere of influence person, if I just did one more thing to keep moving my business forward, I know it's going to work out. It's just having blind faith. And of course, having a coach and a mentor really, really helps. But when you have the coach and a mentor telling you exactly what to do, you have to have blind faith, never give up, and you will never fail. It's scientifically impossible for me to fail if I just never quit. And I never quit. I just keep my head down all the time, and I know it will work out. Again, this is totally true for any sales industry. Some will, some won't. So what? Next. Every no brings me closer to a bigger yes. You just got to keep on trekking along, keep moving. That's what I believe.
So an attitude, a decision not to quit no matter what. I love how you kind of touched on environment there, right? A coach, right? An environment to help you along the way. Even with all of that though, John, let's say you got the decision, you're not going to quit, you're making the decision to plug into an environment. I mean, our listeners are listening to conversations like this to help. But I got to ask, like, were there ever seasons where you still had the self-doubt, where you still had the negative self-talk, where, do you still go through that? And how do you overcome that when it starts to creep in?
Oh my goodness, this is such a great question. Blake, it never ends. For all the listeners out there that are listening to this right now, it never ends. The self-doubt will never end. That little voice in your head that's telling you you're no good, you're never enough, you're not going to make it, it will always be there. But you know what? You have to act in spite of that little voice. You have to keep moving, right? So for me, like even last year, Blake, when you're up, you're laughing, right? You make a lot of money. And next thing you know, you spend a lot of money. And then next thing you know, you get a big tax bill. It's just what happened to me. Stop laughing and be humble. If you're down right now, stay hopeful, stay optimistic, and put your head down and keep working. So keep your emotions between the lines and keep the lines real close, right? Because you can't get too high and you can't get too low. Just keep it right here. Keep the actions going. Never stop prospecting and you'll always be fine, right? But the self-doubt never goes away. I just want to be clear on this.
I love what you just said. I mean, and so eloquently put, just don't get too high on your highs. Don't get too low on your lows. Humility, although it's a word maybe we use too often, like it's everything. Do you have any tips, John? Like, I know we hear it. Everybody says like, keep the ego in check, right? We got to remain humble. Any tips you give? Is there any practices you do? Is there any things you tell yourself when you start getting too high and too excited? Be like, oh, got to keep my feet on the ground. What are your best practices there?
I think my best practices is actually to go out and be too high when you're high. Be too happy when you're successful. And then you'll find out really quickly that you're not all that. Okay. So you either be humble or you're going to get humbled. And I got humbled real quick. Right. And sometimes, Blake, no matter how you look at it, no matter what people tell you, you have to get burned yourself in order to learn. And that's just what it is. But that's the fun of life. Right. You have problems, but it's good because you're either coming from a problem, in a problem right now, or heading towards a problem. And the reason why you have problems is your opportunity to grow as a salesperson, opportunity to grow as a human being. And think about this. If you have no problems, it means what? You're dead. You're either growing or you're dying. So let's keep moving, keep growing.
I'm smiling because I know the truth in what you just said. It's if you don't keep the humility, life will have a funny way of reminding us, all of us, right? So I think that's so true. And it's great hearing from someone like yourself that is on a high, that is rocking, that is crushing it right now. And it's a good reminder, for all of us. And it sounds like, John, I mean, a lot of what you're talking about is mindset, right? I mean, you're a student of, mindset. And I know that you often talk about, 13 iron laws of performance, right? And I know this is something you train and something you teach. You authored a book on the topic. And I know we don't have time to go through kind of all 13, but I'm curious, like for the brand new person that maybe is just getting started in this channel, they found something that they're passionate about, right? Maybe it's their first leap into entrepreneurship. Maybe they're a little scared, or going through all the things we all go through and we're just beginning. Which one of those laws do you think you would give as a gift, right, to someone who's just getting started in this channel?
I think it's two thoughts that I have. In this stage of my career, I would say that if I had to tell my 22-year-old self when you first got started, I would say enjoy the journey. Because I've chased destination after destination after destination. Income goal, number of transactions goal, how many people I were to recruit goal. But once I got there, guess what? It didn't feel as good as I thought it would. So enjoy every single day, enjoy the journey, be attached to the process and less attached to the results. Mind you, yes, we have to keep our end goal in mind at all times, but don't be attached to the outcome. Show up, pay attention, tell the truth, work hard, and don't be attached to the outcome, which is my next point is detachment.
Mm-hmm.
When things are good, let it go. When things are not good, let it go. When you're happy, let it go. When you're sad, let it go. When you have problems, when you have stress, let it go. How do you let go? Is you get back into the work. Do your best and forget the rest. I always say this now. Just put in an honest day of work today, just one day today, and you're absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. That's all you can do. You have to let the rest go. So control the controllables and let the uncontrollables go. We can't control the economy. We can't control interest rates. We cannot control inflation, but we can control working on our mindset. We can control working on our skills on a daily basis. We can control our attitude, approach, and expectations. You know, I'm in my basement right now, but I always dress up 7 a.m. I thought it was our time, 7 a.m.
Yep. I got your message.
I was fully dressed in this exact suit. I even have my pants on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just work on that and be sure to enjoy the journey every step of the way and be detached to the outcome, but attached to the process.
So good. And so valuable. And I think you said in there, you know, I guess, get back to the work, get back focused on the work, right? Do the work. That's something that we can control. And I was listening to, you know, something you were sharing with an audience of individuals a little while back, where it's like you almost broke down this business model to math. Like you were talking about prospecting, which is, you know, a core fundamental, right, within this channel. And you were breaking it down to just the numbers, right? Just the math of how this works. Can you kind of elaborate on your mindset on just how you approach prospecting, how you talk about the funnel, and how at the end of the day, the activity is really just math?
It really is just math. And it's just A plus B equals C. It's prospecting, going on appointments, and making money. If you cut it down as simple as that, you know, your life is going to be a lot simpler. Now, within that, we're not okay with rejection. Right? Every single day we talk to people, we would get rejected, and then we don't go on appointments because we stop ourselves from doing more. But if you get clear on your numbers as a mathematical equation, it becomes exciting because I know, okay, I had to talk to 500 people to get my first transaction in real estate, Blake. But then as you do the numbers, as you play the law of ratios, your ratios get better because every day you're talking to people, you're getting better at your skills and you role play practice. You know, I got to a point where I was talking to 17 people, I would get one transaction, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes exciting. I know that when somebody tells me, no matter what the response, if it's a no, no matter how brutal that no is, I know, great, thank you so much. I know that it's moving me closer to the next yes. So I just need to know that, okay, if I talk to the next 16 people, I would get a sale. And if I have a prolonged period of time where I don't get any sales, I've talked to about 500 people again, I know the next string of, you know, numbers that I do is going to get me a lot of sales. But here's the thing, most people get rejected right here and they stop. Don't stop, keep moving. If you keep moving, your results will come. But here's the thing, people get stopped by the rejection and then they take a while. They take a while here in inaction and being stale and idle. And then when they come back, oh, I feel like it again. They start prospecting again. Yes, but the gaps between sales gets dragged out because you're in inaction a lot of the time. So don't stop and keep moving.
I love that. And it's the truth, right? If we do the activity long enough, you're going to find that ratio. And if you find the ratio, it's exciting. And it doesn't matter what company we're with, what brand we're with, what product or service we're promoting. That is truth, right? If you run the numbers, you find someone that has a need for what you want. And once you get the ratio, it can continue. I love it. You know, John, you've been doing this for a long time, right? In this channel, at very high levels. And as you've mentioned a couple times in your story, like we go through seasons, right? We go through shifts. And right now, just the world is in an interesting period where it feels like the velocity of, let's call it change, right? Let's call it shift, is crazy. So I'm curious, you on the front line, leading teams, excelling the way that you are, when it comes to prospecting, right? Prospecting, getting our message out there, creating the conversations. Is there anything that you're seeing that's working well today, right? Anything that's now in the present moment that's maybe more relevant today, working well today, that was maybe different than before?
Yeah, I really do think that technology has a lot to do with this. And if you can get good on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, WeChat, Little Red Book, all these social media platforms, if you're not on them, you're at a disadvantage. I hate to say it. It is what it is. So you got to get good at those and put out as much content as possible out there. Now, here's the thing. You need to mix the new school with the old school. Because if you get a lot of leads off of your social media, but then you don't call them the actual, face-to-face, the actual reaching out, the actual texting, and actually going out and seeing people, doing those appointments and getting the sale, you're not going to succeed. So don't think that you can forget about old school just because you have a lot of new tech that you're good at, right? So we need to mix the two. I've seen, younger agents and younger, entrepreneurs that are good at tech, but are not good at prospecting and not good at talking to people. They're still spinning their wheels. But if they mix the two, oh my gosh, unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. So that's my advice for, people coming up.
And there's all this conversation these days about being a brand, right? You as a brand, that social media, it's allowing everybody, doesn't matter who you are, where you are, to kind of become a brand and share who you are. What's your philosophy there, especially as it relates to maybe the part-timer, the part-timer, the spare timer, the someone that's just getting started? We hear all this brand conversation. Is it important? Is digital currency important? Where do I start? I'm curious your take.
Yeah, if you want a lot of money, you need to be where the attention goes, right? So how do you get attention? Is you create a brand for yourself. You either create a brand intentionally or the brand's going to be created for you. I was the latter, right, Blake? So I worked so hard that my peers started calling me the hardest working man in real estate. So that was literally my brand. And people, not only agents, clients, would know that John works hard. And he's likely the hardest working man in Vancouver in real estate. It was given to me. And then all of a sudden, this conversation of a beast came up. I don't know how it came about, but it just came. So now my brand is the beast, right? So you either intentionally create yourself as a brand or it'll be created for you. If you don't intentionally create it, make sure that you're going out there doing good work, being a good person, then your reputation will become your brand. That's how I created mine. I'm not super good at marketing, Blake, but I know, just utilize your common sense, go out there and be a good person, work hard, and it'll all work out. So I can't comment too much on branding, but that's how I created my brand.
No, John, don't limit yourself. What you just said is extremely valuable because, we've had guests on the show, and it's a great approach to learn branding, right? And there's things you can learn. There's a skill set you can build, right? A lot of the episodes and a lot of the leaders that we've hosted on the show have given some amazing tips. But I love you just said something that I haven't heard, right? That even if you don't take the time to intentionally create a brand, but you do take the time to show up every day, do the work every day, build a reputation through who you are, what you're doing, who you are becoming, you will create a reputation that becomes your brand.
Exactly.
So I think that's amazing guidance, actually, because I know there's probably people on both sides. I know there's some people that are maybe going to be very intentional about how do I want to be known? What is the reputation I want to create, and might be mindful of the content you put out in alignment with that. And that is great. It's a great strategy. It works. But if that's not you and you're like, John, just be you, show up as you consistently all the time, every day to everybody, and your reputation will become a brand. Just be aware, listen, right? And start to acknowledge how people are acknowledging you and turn that into a superpower. I love that, brother. I've never heard that actually put that way. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
You seem like a very disciplined guy. Just as the vibe I get. Maybe it was your upbringing, right? Maybe it was the parents. When it comes to just like daily disciplines, do you have like a certain like daily disciplines or daily habits or things that you would say these are the things that matter most for you to get where you are, to stay where you are, to keep going where you're going? What would those look like for you?
So my daily disciplines really are surrounded by mindset. I need to have discipline around my mindset work because 95% of the time, it's all about mindset. This is what I believe. Tony Robbins says it's 80-20. I believe it's 95-5. 95% up here and 5% is what you say, how you say it, and what you do, right? So I wake up at 4:30 in the morning every single day. I make sure that I meditate first thing. Second thing, I do some affirmations. I'm the best. I'm a winner. I'm a goal achiever, right? And third thing is I'm going to visualize my outcome, visualize my success, visualize me working hard on my goals. Next is exercise. I go to the gym for about an hour and a half every single day, stretching 45 minutes, lift 45 minutes, come home. And then I read 10 pages of a book, right? Every single day. I don't miss. You think about it. 10 pages of book is 3,650 pages a year. That's 12 to 15 books. Can you imagine how smart and how competent you'll be if you just did that? Next is journaling. I get really crazy up in my head. And my mentor, Mike Ferry, he'd always tell me, John, if you get too crazy in your head, you got to put it down on paper. So I journal every single day. So this is what we call the savers. And I didn't make this up. I'm not that smart. Go read the book Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Savers: silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So if I just do that, I know I win the day. And then the next is my business. Okay, if I just do something that moves the conversation forward, if you're a real estate salesperson, you got to talk to people, go on appointments, go out and take listings, do buyers, and negotiate contracts. Therefore, you make money. That's all you got to do as a real estate salesperson. I'm sure a distributor and in the network marketing industry, the same. Talk to people, go on appointments, close sales, correct?
Same.
That's it.
I love that. And so simple, right? I mean, but those habits consistently over time win, right? They win. You've given us a couple books, John, that I'm writing down as we go. Is there any other books top of mind that are like must reads for everybody in this channel that you say like, hey, this is the short list? Just curious.
So if you want to go the beast mode way, you read a lot of Eric Thomas or, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, Never Finish, or Tim Grover's Relentless and Winning. If you want to go like, I'm never going to quit, this is my mindset, boom, you go here. And the other portion is Deepak Chopra, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, right? And or Ryan Holiday, Stoicism, all those books, right? So you got to have a balance of the two. Some days you feel like going beast mode. Some days you just feel like, So you got to have both.
I love it. Some good ones. I think I've read most of those. Those are some good ones. So hope you guys heard that. Write those things down. He's giving you gold, right? I mean, this is it. I've never done the math on 10 pages a day, but that's amazing. 10 pages a day. Everybody can do 10 pages a day.
Absolutely.
I love it. Are you introverted or extroverted? I'm curious. I'm naturally
introverted. So my battery goes full in the morning and then it gets depleted by the end of the day. And if you actually spend time with me one-on-one, I don't like to talk. But if you put me on a stage, I can't shut up. I'm just kind of one of those guys.
I love it. I was just curious because I kind of got that vibe from you. I'm the same as well. And, so often in this channel, people think that you have to be like an extroverted, outgoing all the time people person. And sometimes, pal, you got natural introverts that are out there crushing it like yourself. Any tips you would give to the introverts out there, having lived through the ups and downs, right? Having, gone to the levels that you're at right now, knowing that sometimes, being around people, even though it's what you love and it's what makes an impact, can drain you. Any tips you've learned as an introvert you would give to fellow introverts out there as it relates to this business?
Absolutely. When I first got into the sales organization, coaching organization, I would walk into a conference room. I would sit right in the very, very back corner by myself. I was so shy. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I knew that if I opened my mouth, I would sound stupid, right? Being shy and introverted. But here's the thing. Once you keep attending, once you keep doing your job, once you keep practicing, right? Once you have some results, you'll start to have confidence. Again, the strength of a real estate salesperson or any salesperson is based on their attitude and confidence. Now you can work on your attitude and confidence by working on your skills and your mindset. So once you work on your skills and mindset year after year after year after year after year, then you can present, then you can become confident. You still be introverted, but you will be confident and competent, most importantly, in your job.
I think that's important. And I know there's a bunch of people out there feeling a big sigh of relief saying, hey, I can do this, right? You can do this. John, I want to leave some time just to get your closing thoughts on anything you want to share. But before we do that, I just want to do like a quick rapid fire round. And these are 3 questions that I've asked all the guests so far. And I'm curious, just the first thing that comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Sure.
But this will be in your lane because, I'm all about mindset shifts. Right. And you've given us some gold already in this conversation, little perspective shifts that if we just go from telling ourselves one thing to telling ourselves something else, like it can change everything. So I just want to ask you kind of 3 rapid fire, just mindset shifts. First being you personally, like if you look at, John's story, right, all the way through the ups and downs to where you are today. What's one perspective shift? You went from telling yourself one thing to telling yourself something else that you think has made some of the biggest difference to get to where you are today?
I think it's, everything happens for a reason, and the reason is to benefit you. Things happen not to you, but for you. And if you think of everything in that perspective, you're like, man, I'm excited about that. Because every downturn, every setback is an opportunity. Remember that. So you can complain about it or you can do something about it. Right? And if you can choose this way, you win every single day.
So powerful. So we're in the middle of it and it's easy to ask, why is me, or play victim? Maybe we ask, if the world was working for me right now, like John just said, what could this mean? Right? What could this mean? I love that. Second one is same question, but to a brand new distributor, a brand new person, just gotten started in this industry, right? Is excited about what they're doing. What shift would you give them right now to say, you got to go from telling yourself this to telling yourself this? What shift would you give to a brand new distributor?
Never quit. The difference between a producer and a non-producer is not sales skills. Is not how well you know your product. Is not how well you know your organization or your business model. It's about how well you can get back up. Fall down, get back up. Fall down 7, get back up 8. Right? And that's the difference between top 1% and the rest is grit. That's it. One word. If you just think about it. If you can get knocked in the teeth and keep moving forward, you win. You know what? I get smacked around a lot, Blake. In my whole career, I get slapped around a lot, but I make sales. Here's the thing. Are you willing to get slapped around for that paycheck? And if you have a family to feed, are you willing to get slapped around for your family? Think about that. Right? So, and another thing is, I'll say this, if your why is big enough, the hows don't matter. The hows will come to you when your why and your what is so strong, you'll just keep moving forward no matter what. Then grit is actually easy because you have something at stake. Think about it. Who's counting on you? Is it your kids? Is it your parents? Is it you? Who do you want to be successful for? And if you can just think about that every single day, just one more day and never quit, you're gonna win. You can do it. So cliche.
No, you're firing me up, brother. I love it. I feel the energy. I feel the vibe. I know anybody listening to this right now is ready to go. You're talking, you just had me flash like Rocky Balboa in my mind. It's like not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit.
That's right.
I love it. Last one's more like a visionary question. Okay. And this is just thinking about one of the things I love with this show and through direct selling news is, we have a platform that can access the whole channel. And DSN has done such a good job within the executive circles, right, for so long. It's so awesome to be able to bring this type of access, this type of credibility, this type of education to distributor communities around the world. And I kind of have this visionary question of, imagine you could give a shift right now to every single distributor, agent, sales rep, in every company, every brand, every service all around the world, the entire power of this channel. John, you got it. You can snap your fingers and give every single one of us a shift in this moment. What would you give?
I would give them the muscle of willpower. You see, willpower is like, again, it's like a battery, right? And a lot of people's willpowers get diminished quickly, right? And if they can just keep going and never quit and just keep moving forward, just that 1% each day, they'll always win. But people can't see that. You need to have the willpower to get through tough times. You need to be okay with tough times. You have to welcome it. And it's your opportunity in the tough times that had you become a more successful human being, a more successful salesperson. You see, again, success is attracted by who you become. So welcome those tough times, right? And I think, it comes back to will. If you are willing, then you can get through anything. But some people are just not willing. But I want to say this, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong to not have the will. It may just not be your business. It just may not be the right fit. You will find your will elsewhere. Does that make sense?
I love it.
People wrong for not having the will for what you're doing right now. You just haven't found your passion. You haven't found that will. But if you had chosen this, I wish I could just give everyone the will to keep going.
And I'm smiling, John, because I can't help but think of the connection between the will at the start of our conversation that introduced this industry to you, and the will that you're ending this conversation is the shift you give everybody. Find your will. Find your will. Find your will.
In so many different ways. Find your will.
Find your will. The person that's going to open the door and find your will, that's going to walk you through it. I love it, John. Well, this has been awesome. I mean, we covered a lot of ground, from mindset and shifts to tactics. You gave us simple systems on our daily routines, simple systems on our daily habits, the disciplines we can build to become a top achiever in what we're doing. Before we round out today's conversation, anything else you want to share? Any other closing thoughts before we conclude?
I think I said a lot, but I do want to share something. It's regarding my family, right? I believe that making money is great. Being successful is great, but nothing matters when you don't have your health and your family. So Blake, I came home the other day. I have two little girls, 4 years old and 1 year old. The 4-year-old came home and showed us her assignment, which was draw your family portrait. She drew herself. She drew her mom. She drew her baby sister. She even drew our dog, but she did not draw who?
No way.
Yeah.
You were out of the photo?
I was out of the photo, right? So guys, no matter what you do, take care of yourself first, take care of your family, and everything will work out just perfectly. You are already blessed. If you're not living under a tarp right now, it's all good, bro. You just got to go out there and keep working and everything's going to work out. But if you don't have your health and if you don't have your family, what do you have? You have nothing. I hope that makes sense. That's what I'll end off with.
No, I mean, you just gave me chills. John, thank you so much for the time today. So generous, away from your family, away from your team, for no other reason other than to add value and share and hopefully make an impact on the listeners that are listening. And for those of you guys that stayed with us all the way until the end, this was full of gold. Go listen, re-listen, grab out that journal. And it was part of the habits, John said, right? Take some notes. And apply something from this conversation. The only reason we're taking time to give this to you is to make an impact, right? And I know if you apply what you got today, you will move forward to where you're better, right? You will find your own journey. And this is something that now you can share. So if you got value from today's conversation, hey, drop by the podcast, leave us a rating, leave us a review. I'll be checking. I know John will be checking. That's the only feedback we have that what we did mattered today. And this conversation is now something you can share. You can be Will. You can be the Will, right now to someone in your own life by sharing this conversation, inspiring them to go to their own next level. So John, appreciate you, brother, what you're doing for the channel, what you're doing for this industry, what you're doing for your people. And just thank you so much for our conversation and your time today.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for having me. We'll do this again soon. Thank you, Blake.